And overall,
A todos. Les vamos a dar un momento a todos para que seleccionen el idioma y luego estaremos comenzando.
Okay, I think we're ready to begin.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. It's good to see so many people here and really happy to have an opportunity to share some of our thinking about where we're going and supporting the field around continuous quality improvement, as well as some resources that we are making available over time and managing your staff. I am going to start sharing my screen.
Vamos a comenzar presentando parte de la presentación.
And let me So this is just a reminder of the domains of our strategic planning, focusing on the 4 different areas of our work. And in this particular presentation, we are focusing in on what we are doing for programs. I just want to pause and check briefly on the interpretation. Is this working for people, or should I pause and let the Spanish interpretation follow my speaking?
¿Está funcionando la traducción al español? ¿Les está llegando simultáneamente o debería ella parar y darme el chance a que pueda traducir?
I think that means it's working, Jocelyn.
It's working. Okay, I'll just, oops, what did I do? I'll just keep going. So in this presentation, we are focusing on the status of the policies that we have in place to support programs in quality improvement and get some feedback from programs as well. The first part of the session will focus on the ways in which we're integrating support for continuous quality improvement into multiple systems of engagement with educators and programs. And then we'll also wanted to share a reminder of some of the new systems that we're putting in place to support programs and managing staff qualifications. There will be a few different parts of this presentation. So I will present some information with some support from others from EEC, and then there will be an opportunity to share some feedback through some poll everywhere questions. But we're also going to try something new with this presentation. We're going to have small group breakouts afterwards, and I wanted to thank our partners and colleagues at the PDCs who have offered to come on board and support facilitation in those breakout rooms. So to get started, I'll turn this over to Joy Cohen to share some of the work that's happening with the licensing regulations.
One moment. I think we are having a little bit of trouble with interpretation. And what you need to do if you are hearing both English and Spanish at the same time is to click mute original audio on the language section. And then you should just be able to hear the language that you selected. So I'll give everyone a moment to do that.
So estamos teniendo un poquito de dificultad
and see if we have solved that. So if you are hearing both, if you are hearing 2 languages at the same time, then select mute audio, original audio in the language section. It sounds like it's working for those that have done it. So Jocelyn, do you want to start again? And let's make sure that that's working.
Sure. Oh, I did not mean to move ahead. So I think the first section of this presentation, we want to focus in on the ways we're integrating licensing regulations and supports for quality improvement. And I will turn it over to Joy Cohen to talk a little bit about some of the changes that we're looking at for our licensing regs.
Excellent. Thank you, Jocelyn, and hello, everybody. It's nice to see you all. Thank you for being here. If you've been able to attend our earlier engagement sessions, we had been talking a lot about our licensing structure and how we're envisioning making some changes. And one of the things that we talked about was our commitment to make sure that these regulations are customized, that we're able to offer programs regulations that are relevant and pertinent to their program type specifically. And as we did that, we thought a little bit more about how important it is that the regulations are responsive to not only the needs of the children, the needs of the program specifically, but the unique assets of each program. And so what the direction that we're going in is to think about within each of these two types of regulations, a home-based set of regulations and then a center-based set of regulations, that there would be 3 license types. And each of those license types will be dictated by the ages of the children served. So for example, if a provider serves only infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, they would have this first type of license, the early childhood license. If the provider served only school-age children, so only children that are in kindergarten or older, they would have the second type that's on your screen, the school-age license. And then a third type, where if a program is serving both school age and early childhood, they would have this third type of license. And what this is going to allow us to do is to really embed quality right into our regulations in a way that we couldn't before, because what we're now going to be able to do is to really incorporate the developmental needs of children in the same way that, for example, a quality system might look for programs to do. So really looking at how to align better with the research on program quality, how to facilitate monitoring that is meaningful for programs, and how to make sure that we are aligning with community resources that are appropriate to the specific population served. So lots of opportunities here as we think about the direction of our regulations. If we can switch ahead to the next slide, please, Jocelyn, you'll see that as we,
sorry,
yeah,
there we go.
That's it. As we think about, again, embedding quality, we're really seeing the regulatory standards as establishing that quality floor and recognizing that even by becoming licensed, you have achieved a level of quality, right? You've achieved a minimum foundational level of quality upon which to build from there. And so really looking for our regulations to be sort of a roadmap for programs to really understand what are the minimum expectations here in order for me to operate and also to protect the health and safety of children, but also to look at how our monitoring tools and our monitoring practices balance compliance with continuous quality improvement. And so it becomes as much about working with programs to remove barriers to compliance as it does about the compliance itself. And that's a huge shift that we're really excited about here at EEC. I want to talk through some of these categories. So you have 6 categories on your screen, and we're envisioning that these categories will be the same across both sets, both home-based and center-based. Where there will be some differences perhaps will be with the subcategories. So the terms of licensure section will cover things like that pertain to how to obtain and maintain your licensure. Education of children will pertain to standards that focus on the things that children actually experience in the program day to day. Indoor and outdoor space, focusing on the physical space of the program. And then child health and safety, which will focus on the practices, policies, and procedures that pertain to directly protecting children's health and safety. And then sort of a new direction also for EEC is an opportunity to include alternative program models into our regulatory framework and ensure that at the very least we aren't being prohibitive to those programs and sort of not allowing for incorporation with those philosophies. And also looking at sort of special offerings that programs might provide, things like water activities, field trips, those kinds of things that may not be part of the everyday program practices, but still require standards for health and safety. And then finally, the program administration and business practices section, which will focus on the administrative requirements for operations of programs. And what's unique about this is it really kind of highlights that we're really focused on the role of the program leader to be instrumental in facilitating not only compliance and not only continuous quality improvement, but supporting staff with how to operate in support children within the parameters of these regulations. So lots of exciting movement and exciting changes that I'm grateful to be able to share with you. And now I will pass it back to you, Jocelyn.
Thanks very much, Joy. So when we move into thinking about how that foundational work around licensing is integrated into other supports for continuous quality improvement, I just want to share a diagram that we've created to try to reflect the different types of cycles of engagement that we would expect programs to have and the ways in which they work together and build towards advanced practices in quality. So every program will continue to have regular engagements with the licensors as always. And as Joy pointed out, that will focus both on the ways in which compliance with foundational expectations of quality are being met, but also provide an opportunity for licensors to engage with conversations with programs about their continuous quality improvement goals. Every program will have a CQI plan or a continuous quality improvement plan. This could become the basis of conversation between the program and the licensors to start talking about where the program is trying to go with quality and give an opportunity to have a conversation about where supports might be available, what needs programs have to support their work in building quality. And this then feeds into the second circle, which is the program cycle through continuous quality improvement cycles, whereby as a program, you identify a goal, you identify information and data to reflect on the extent to which you're achieving a particular goal. You can then move into a process whereby you try to implement new things or you engage in training or coaching to improve in particular areas and then reflect back on the data to see if improvements happened and continue to cycle through those types of improvements. And the conversations with the licensors and their ability to get support all can feed into supporting that type of a process. And over time, these engagements should support programs in building towards advanced practices across all the focus areas of quality, which I will talk about in a minute. But to do this, clearly, we need to provide you with a toolbox. We need to provide programs with the types of supports that are necessary to do this work. And particularly recognizing in center-based programs, leaders in the program play a really critical role in organizing the conversations, supporting the definitions around the types of quality improvement, accessing resources, to ensure that educators have the opportunity to engage in reflective and job-embedded professional development. So this first image here is showing our latest conceptualization of how we are thinking about the different domains of quality. You can see, I think these should be familiar, and you can also see how these connect to some of the licensing domains as well. Business practices are still an area of focus. The physical environment is still an area of focus. The leadership role and professional learning component are very, very important in this process and something that we want to call out. But you can see adult-child interactions sit at the center of this model. This is something that we heard from the field last year when we were engaging with the field. It's something that I think everybody really recognizes that is the heart. The quality of adult-child interactions are the heart of the quality of the program. And then around this, there's also some other focus areas around family engagement, curriculum and assessment that are also important structural components to think about for programs and other types of engagements that are important on building program quality. And ultimately, all of these need to work together over time, but we also don't expect programs to work on all of these all at the same time, nor are we planning to come in at one point in time evaluation across all of these components and say, this is where you as a program are at a level of quality, but instead really want to support programs in focusing in intense and targeted ways on different areas of quality over time and slowly building across these domains rather than expecting everything to happen at one time in lockstep. But to do this, we want to make sure that the resources are being provided to leaders to support the data-driven quality improvement efforts within each of these domains that make this work. So this is outlining the system of supports that we currently have, and I think provides an opportunity to also start thinking about where we might go, which is the type of feedback that we're really looking for from you when we get to the poll questions, and we also when we have the breakout sessions. This is the conversation that we want to make sure that we pay attention to. so at the moment, we've thought about our supports at 3 different levels: the foundational supports that everybody accesses, the supports that are available broadly to programs, but that programs turn to as needed. We don't necessarily have all programs accessing them at all times. And then for a smaller group of programs, those opportunities support really focus in a sustained engagement and multi-year engagement around comprehensive practice improvement. So to flesh these out a little with some examples, at the foundational level, every program engages with their licensing team, program quality specialists. And as I spoke to before, we're designing this engagement as going forward to be focused around, at least in part, the CQI planning and process. The learning management system is also available. The Strong Start LMS is also available to all programs, and everybody engages with this at minimum through the EEC Essentials course, but there are other courses that are available and something that we will continue to look at building out. And then when you look at some of the as needed supports, the PDCs, who are also here today to get your feedback and thoughts, are available to provide professional learning, training, technical assistance, and coaching services to program and leaders and staff around the areas of needs that programs have. The early childhood mental health consultants are also something that are broadly available as the field puts requests in. Around practices that programs can put in place to support children's social, emotional, and behavioral health. And then finally, we are piloting business training for programs. I think, again, as we pointed out, both in the reg structure as well as the quality domains, we are thinking about how we're supporting programs and using strong business trainings. We've had lots of conversations in the field about the importance and the challenges in running an early childhood business. We are currently working with neighborhood villages in United Way to pilot some cohorts going through business training. We had an FCC cohort, a set of FCC cohorts start over the summer, working with Melinda Weber from United Way, and there's a new set of cohorts running this fall. We also have started a set of center-based cohorts this fall, and that training will continue through the year. We are evaluating it right now to work with these smaller groups to make sure that the training's design and implementation is really meeting programs' needs and supporting programs in using effective business practices. But over time, we do intend to continue to expand those options for programs. And then finally, when we look at the highest level, the sustained engagement component of this model, we have the early childhood support organizations that provide multi-year coaching around strong job-embedded learning and instructional practices. And we also have cohorts working with the pyramid model, which is also a multi-year engagement focused on building systemic supports for social emotional development into programs, operations, and functioning. So I think this gives a sense of how our system is currently structured. And one thing that I would just encourage everybody to think about, and also to bring to the discussions at the end of this is, as you think about what it would mean to continuously work through CQI, the types of supports that you found helpful through a CQI process and the types of supports that you would like to see, does the structure seem right? Or are there other things that we should be thinking about, or other types of supports that we should be bringing into this system to make sure that you have the resources that you will need as a program? So now I'm going to move into the next section. But before I do, I can't see the chat. And I just want to make sure there aren't any questions of clarification in the chat that I should answer at this point in time.
Just a desire to see engagement sessions with the early childhood mental health consultants.
Okay, I can connect with them about that. So the next stage of this is really more, I think, a reminder of some of the educator policy work that educator support policies that we were working on, focusing both on where our plans are for the registry, as well as a reminder of the professional pathways options that are available to programs. So I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin Molina first to just review where we're going with the registry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Molina. I'm Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Early Education and Care. I primarily oversee our licensing offices. I support program quality functions and work, and have also been supporting on the design and implementation of the professional registry for our early childhood educators across the Commonwealth. You might have likely seen this slide or heard us discuss the opportunities that are forthcoming within the professional registry that we're building. I think first and foremost, I want to communicate that this was directly designed in response to feedback and engagement that we received from programs and educators, indicating a desire to have a one-stop shop for educators, staff, and program administrators to have a digital filing cabinet of all of their records, of all of their training, of all of the materials that they accumulate or achieve through their career as an early educator in one online platform. And so what this slide does is sort of scaffold for you within different phases what the technology will look like over time. So as we build out this platform, I would like to share with you sort of incrementally how we will build out on this technology. The first phase is really going to be targeted to support group and school age program administrators and their educators with building a registry profile. So everyone will have access to the registry, including family child care educators in this first phase, but our direct outreach and engagement is going to focus on group and school age administrators so we can learn a little bit more deeply about their user experience and ways that we might customize support, training materials, and resource guides to support more broadly our rollout plans for the future. In this initial phase, it's really just setting up a profile account and making sure that program administrators have a staff roster or an educator roster in their system. If asked, and I frequently do get asked this question, what is the user value? Why should I engage in this professional registry in phase one? Other than it being a requirement or an expectation from EEC, there is incredible value in participating and engaging within this system. First and foremost, as you all are aware, you are earning or applying for monthly operational ARPA grants. So the data that we would collect in this professional registry will be leveraged to support investments in salary enhancements and other considerations for the grants moving forward in 2022. It's also an opportunity to begin storing in this digital filing cabinet the first aid CPR certification dates of your employees so that we can begin to proactively communicate and support educators in pursuing their first aid CPR certification in advance of expiration. What I feel most proud about in the design and the implementation of the professional registry is that it will very much look and feel like the LEAD portal. So we have leveraged Salesforce as the vendor to build this professional registry. For educators and program administrators who have utilized LEAD, it will look and feel very similar to LEAD. Even aesthetically, the design of the software and of the platform is very consistent with what is currently being used across the field. We are currently doing some external UAT testing, which is user acceptance testing from some of our group and school age and FCC system providers to get some more concrete feedback on ways we might enhance the system. Phase 2 will really focus, and that will be coming next year, on integrating the LMS or the online training content that you all access so that that can then be stored within your professional record. Phase 3 is going to be quite the animal, and that is really making sure that we're integrating the background record check results and the suitability determination into the professional registry. And so making sure right now an educator and a program administrator is responsible for toggling multiple different technology platforms in order to get this documentation in order. The goal is not to create another platform, but to synthesize and collect all of the data that's already being put into these systems and being able to provide a one-stop shop so that there is more ease of use for the educator. A later and future phase will be phase 4, which is the development of a credential. And so we have heard pretty loudly from the field, from stakeholders, and from educators directly that there were a lot of challenges with the teacher qualification certificate process. Some of it was operational and some of it was policy related. And so we are really looking to gather that feedback to provide some interim and long-term supports to think a little bit more creatively about how we can honor and reflect both work experience and coursework attainment for our early educators. If we could advance to the next slide. So as you see, and these slides will be made available, I saw in one of the comments, For me, I always want, when I'm being asked to do something, I always want to know what the benefits are for me, the user. And so I think it's important that we upfront communicate that there is a user value, even in phase one, to begin creating this profile account. And so if asked by an educator or if asked by an employer of an early education and care workforce, what are the benefits to using the system? I think that we would always want to then redirect people to these bullets. So for an educator, as I said, it's being able to have this digital filing cabinet. It's also being able to establish a direct communication link with EEC so that we can manage correspondence with educators in addition to program administrators. Eventually, as you know, we want to create this credential and provide an opportunity to transparently but supportively work with educators to honor their work experience and coursework experience as a credential. The employer benefits are endless, but as I mentioned, there's an opportunity to maximize the operational grant funding in the future with the data that we collect on staffing levels. The commissioner and I often joke, we frequently get asked, how many educators do we have across the state of Massachusetts? And we don't have a great answer because we don't have an online professional registry that is able to collect this data. Also, long-term, selfishly, my goal is to support streamlining of licensing visits. We support a number of regional licensing offices, and it is very important to me that licensors have access to the data in advance of going out to the program. I think it streamlines the monitoring visit, but also enables them to support programs more proactively around what their needs may be. So all of this will be coming in phase one, and we appreciate everyone supporting us in a call to action to impress upon educators and program administrators the importance of utilizing the system.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, I did notice there was one mention in the chat, which is around the existing PQ registry. And so I just want to say that there has always been a commitment from EEC to value and to honor what has been entered into our system. So even in the discussion and in the design of a revised educator qualifications policy, we've really made a commitment to maintaining the teacher certificates that have already been issued or administered to the field. So those will not lose value or lose currency. We will continue to honor teacher certificates that have been administered to the field. The PQR registry in many ways has gathered a lot of great data from providers and educators. However, in the design of the credential, EEC is really going to need to take a look at that data to determine what is worthwhile in terms of transferring into this new system, and what will be honored and valued as part of the credential. And so I think really right now, there's not, there's an increased importance to understand what has currently been stored in PQR, which we are actively working on, and then configuring a plan for what, if any, of those documents then need to be migrated into the new system so that we do not request duplicate entries from our users.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. I think just to build on that, the goal would be to make sure that for the documentation that is most critical, that it already exists in TQ or PQR, that we migrate that for you versus asking for duplicate entry. I think just calling out, as Caitlin just said. So moving on, I also just wanted to, I know there was a presentation last week on this topic, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I did want to make sure everybody was aware of the Professional Pathways website that Neighborhood Villages has launched. We recognize that as programs are trying to hire educators, I recognize that that is a very challenging process right now, but we are hopeful that as you continue to hire educators or work to advance the educators that you currently have, there may be need for higher ed coursework or desire on the part of your educators to pursue a degree. And it can be very, very challenging to connect and find resources in higher ed on occasion. So we did want to create this resource whereby anybody, an educator or a program, if you have a group of educators that you want to support as a cohort, can log in and provide information about who's looking for support, what type of courses are you looking for, and get connected with someone at Neighborhood Villages who can talk through the options and provide some supports in connecting individuals or cohorts of educators with coursework. So again, just pausing to see, again, I can't see the chat. So if there are any questions in the chat, Eli, if you could just call those out now that I should answer.
I think there's a lot of feedback.
Great.
And a question about whether the PowerPoint will be available. It will. And I'll put the link in the chat so that people can find it. But otherwise, I think it's more comments that we can take and use later.
Great.
As we shape things. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. So we are going to move to the polling section of this meeting. And I apologize that I did not, we were working on the slides to the last possible minute. So I am going to pause and let interpreters read the directions to you. And Eli, if you could put the poll everywhere link into the chat, if you haven't already, that would be great. I suspect many of you have done this already. But you can connect either by texting a code to 22333, texting early education to that code, or using the link to join by the web page. That will get you into a place where you can respond to the questions that I'm about to share on the screen. Just give everybody a minute to do that.
Is the link going into the chat?
The link is in the chat.
Oops. Sorry, did not mean to. It's HTTPS:/. I never know if those are back or forward slashes, but there are two of them. POLLEV period COM, another slash, early education. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and pull up the poll everywhere. Bear with me. It's been a little time since I've done this, but I do know how to do it. All right, and then let me move into the presentation mode. Okay, can everybody see the question that I just believe that I put up? So given all the information shared today, what type of support would you like to make sure EEC provides? And this is an open text response. What feels critical to managing some of the changes we've talked about? Eli, should I be doing something to share the results that I'm not doing? Because I see results coming in, but they're not showing up on the screen.
Yes, if you hover down at the bottom, you should have a responses tab that you can press.
There we go. Thank you.
Sure.
So coaching and training, yeah. And mental health, always essential and even more so now, yeah. We want support with the registry ROMs, yeah. And continued communication from EEC. Yeah, and seeing a number of things about just like being really, really clear about how to use the new portal, what we were expecting, making sure that there's training in advance and enough advance notice before we launch. And absolutely, we'll show the PowerPoint. More trainings. Any particular types of trainings or coaching support? An FAQ sheet and a help desk. Yes, we are working on making sure there will be a strong help desk support as well. And some sort of individualized support around the registry as well. And messaging directly to educators because they're obviously playing a key role in this, yeah. Clarity around timelines and, you know, again, also looking to licensors as a component of the support system. Informal drop-in sessions and on-site support. additional coaching, but recognizing that it can put a burden on directors. Less redundant paperwork, yeah, no, that is something we have heard. And support for programs and making sure their staff understand what to do. That will be critical. Continued mental health support again. More information about the goals for licensing. So I think pieces around clarity of our expectations around the licensing changes as well. Making sure that mental health consultation supports are really truly accessible. The staff have to register in the PQR as well as the new registry, or is this replacing it? Ultimately, it's replacing it, but we are not going to shut it down, the PQR down on you during the transition. Smaller group engagement to continue to get information on this. Written directions and plans. Professional development that goes more in depth. Fewer checklists. And support that's really targeted to where educators are and the types of needs that they have. Being able to find and access information easily. Yep. Training that is built on core competencies. And building the pipeline, like increasing the number of new candidates coming into the field. How to be a leader, not just focusing on managing a program, but really being a leader in your program, and thinking about qualifications for administrators and leaders. Scheduling can be tricky for training. That would be important to think about. Training licenses and in supporting programs in these ways. Shout out for Flamingo and JIR. Support of professional education opportunities that are accessible for educators. I'm going to let these run for a bit. And remembering that we supporting not just new candidates, but also those who have been in the field for a while. Digital files, not just for staff, but also thinking about that for children. COVID-19 guidance continues to be important, as is money. Career advisors would be helpful. Time management, yes, there's never enough time and there's a lot that's being asked. Making sure we're clear about what needs to be online and what has to be a hard copy, so we're not duplicating expectations, and we're being more efficient in the management of documents. Great, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question because it looks like this one has slowed down. So this question focuses on what training or coaching supports have you found to be helpful in improving educator practice and building the quality of your program? So really digging in a little bit to the types of training and coaching you would want to support your educators. And things that you have used successfully in the past in particular. So ongoing support that helps when barriers are encountered. Strong Start. Support and understanding the emotional development of children. Strong Start looks like it's been very helpful to people. Pyramid model training has been accessible and is important. Coaching on trauma-informed care. Yep, child behavior. Enable, one of the early childhood mental health consultants. Follow-up is coming up again as something that's an important part. So it isn't just one and done, but there's an ongoing engagement and opportunity to follow up. Mentors and coaches from Strong Start. Building teachers with self-awareness in the classroom, and training on business. Guest speakers, so bringing in experts and providing the opportunity to hear from people willing to come and speak. Practice-based coaching. So it sounds like Strong Start has been, something that many have turned to for various supports. The pyramid model also looks like that's been helpful to people. A regular engagement with a coach and ongoing site supports, including pyramid model training. Again, thinking about child behavior. PLCs, that's invite participation and support putting the practice in place in the classroom. Calling out the importance of coaching and integration into the classroom, as well as individualizing with children and support for that, support for reflective practice. Setting up schedules and regular coaching support. Understanding the importance of the work, yes. And mindfulness and self-care. Yeah, our staff need to take care of themselves too. How to use staff meetings to support development and learning. Support for directors as well, yeah. Understanding multicultural backgrounds. And then support around our various expectations and quality improvement efforts. Pyramid model, but also wanting more online trainings. And another theme seems to be bringing people to the program versus having people leave the program. Oops, I don't know what I just did there. Bringing both training and coaching to the program. That's our clarity around our expectations. More PLCs. And bringing in tools like the class to improve professional development and identify areas of growth. Creating successful environments for children. So thinking about needs of children, the diverse needs of children. Again, on-site coaching and mentoring. So it looks like those have slowed down. So thank you for your thoughts. Again, we will record these and review all of them. I'm going to move on to the next question. So in this case, this is multiple choice, but we did want to ask what aspects, when you think about engaging with the CQI process as described, what aspects do you feel like you would need the most help with? Identifying goals for improvement, facilitating the CQI process within your program, so facilitating the conversations and the decisions that need to be made. Gathering data, so data is an important part of the reflective process. So you have information that you're looking at and reviewing and thinking about and making determinations about how to change, ensuring that there's attention to equity, diversity, and inclusion in the work. Finding the supports, finding the appropriate training and coaching supports that allow you to meet goals. And then there is an option for other. And I will give you a chance to explain what those are. Just letting these run. So finding the training and coaching is standing out there as something that everyone really, not everyone, but many would like support in. And then also support in facilitating the CQI process and sort of how to have those conversations and do that planning. But it looks like all of these areas are areas that there is a desire for some support in. Okay, it looks like that has slowed down. Thank you. So for the next question, give it another minute. I saw some movement. So for the next question, those that said other, if you could just indicate, if you want to indicate what that was, like what are the types of supports that we didn't list in that, if just let us know here. We'll give it a minute to see if anybody has anything that they want to add. Building relationships, yeah, for directors. And not getting caught in too much record keeping, yeah. staff, building staff buy-in, and then also tech support, particularly around PRC. Yeah, that will, thinking about measurement tools and supports for the types of measurement tools to select. Overall start and finish instructions. So how do you do this? What are the expectations? What are the timelines? Extra staff and money. Yes. Great. We need to support the tools and the job aids and support understanding of methodologies for CQI. Yeah, that's definitely important. And then also understanding where are we standing on the core competencies. Are these being changed? What are the competencies? Because those will be clearly foundational decisions to be made around the supports for staff. Ability to connect with EEC expert support. Absolutely. Okay, so this is the last question in the poll section, and then we will break out into breakout rooms where you'll be able to have a conversation about some of these things. But when you think about your program's next set of goals for CQI, which domain of quality would you like to focus on? Looks like support for leadership and professional learning. This is really important. And then also adult-child interactions, which is definitely something that we've heard from many as being so foundational to this work. Some attention to curriculum and assessment, and then also family engagement and business practices. All right. Looks like it has slowed down a bit, so I am going to stop there and stop sharing, but we will hold on to those results. So thank you all for your thoughts on that. And I am going to, I think actually maybe I will put the breakout room questions into the chat, because I believe that will then stay with everybody when you go to your breakout rooms. So I'll do that right now. And we are going to move you into breakout rooms. For those of you engaging in this session in Spanish, we are going to try to put all the Spanish speakers into one room together. If for some reason something does not work out right, we can move you. Just raise your hand and let us know that you would like to be moved to the Spanish speaking breakout room, and we can take care of that. Can everybody see the questions in the chat? Great. So we are going to move in a second. I think the only other thing to remind, we have colleagues from PDCs here to facilitate. There's some EEC staff here as well. The focus of the facilitation is going to be on getting your feedback and your thoughts and responses to these questions. We're happy to continue to take questions from you as you have them, but the goal of these groups is not going to be answering questions at that point in time, particularly because facilitators are coming from a broad range of places across the agency and our support systems. Okay, so I will turn it over now to Eli to send us flying.